Hi, I'm Thomas from Cozy Grammar. If you find yourself needing to host a Zoom meeting for the first time, it can be intimidating. Even if you've joined a Zoom meeting before, getting behind the scenes and making things go might feel like another kettle of fish. And so, since several viewers have asked us to do so, we've put together a cozy, step-by-step guide. Join me inside my writing yurt, and we'll get started. I never ran a Zoom meeting myself till we began Ask Cozy Grammar for students and families at home with questions about grammar, punctuation, and writing. But as Cozy Grammar's creator, Marie Rackham, believed, and as I believe, we can learn to do anything if we take it step by step. So let me share with you what I found to be the key steps to hosting a Zoom meeting, as well as a few tips of my own, such as having something beautiful and natural in your workspace. To start with, you'll need to have a Zoom account and also to have downloaded the Zoom app to your computer or device. For this video, I'll assume you've done this already, but in case you haven't, you can take a peek at Cozy Grammar's video on joining a Zoom meeting for the first time. By the way, if you want to come back to any of these steps afterwards, we'll put an index in the description box below. That way you can take in the larger picture now and return to any details afterwards. I'm using our licensed account for the sake of this demonstration, but these steps work the same for both the free and paid accounts. Now here's the first way hosting a Zoom meeting is different than just joining a Zoom meeting. When you host a meeting, you have to set it up first. I've found it's easier to do this through the Zoom website rather than the Zoom app, so I'll show you how to do that as well. So I'll just close the app, and here we are on the website. How did I get here? Well, I'll go back to the main website. I've already signed in. If you haven't signed in, you sign in. You go to My Account, and on the profile page, you can go down on the left side to Meetings. And now what you'll want to do is schedule a new meeting. You'll see that there are a lot of options. But just like Marie does in our basic cozy punctuation course, focusing only on the most basic and cozy ways to use punctuation marks, I'm going to show you only the most essential features. Then, once you've gotten comfortable with them, you can feel comfortable exploring the others. So, give your meeting a title. Let's call this Hosting a Zoom Call. Then go down and set your date, your time, the length of your meeting, the time zone if you need to set the time zone. And I would strongly recommend having the meeting ID be generated automatically. This makes your meeting more secure because it will have its own unique number. I would also suggest leaving Require Meeting Password checked if you want to require a password. And if you have a free account, you'll have to have a password, which I think is good for security reasons. I would also suggest selecting on for the host and on for the participant as far as the video camera being on. This way, people can begin seeing who else is in the meeting, and they can always turn their cameras off later on if they so desire. And among the meeting options, I always check Enable Meeting Room in case an early bird joins before the host does, before I do. And depending on the kind of meeting you're organizing, you might also want to select Mute Participants upon entry, or not, again depending on what sort of meeting it is. Then save, and you've set up your first meeting. Now, I'd encourage you to stand up and stretch. These days, it's easy to forget how unnatural it is to spend so much time seated at a computer. I highly encourage you to build some stretch breaks into your meetings. Invite your guests to get up get a drink of water. And just as important, look into the distance. Our eyes are meant to move from near to far. So look across the room, or better yet, look out a window or a dome. This is important not only for the health of our bodies and eyes, but also for the health of our minds and the health of our interactions. When we are refreshed in body and mind, we learn more easily, interact more joyfully, and also get more things done. Speaking of which, here's another tip. You'll want to think about where you place your computer, both for your own comfort, as well as for the picture that your guests will see on their screens. For instance, when I do our Ask Cozy Grammar sessions, I often close the window curtain to keep the light out from behind me, so that I have a nice neutral backdrop behind me with plenty of light on my face. Great. So you've scheduled your meeting. Now you need to share the meeting link with your guests. Here on the meeting page, you only really need to worry about one thing: the copy invitation link over here. If you click on that, you'll see all of the invitation information you might need. If you want to share all of the invitation information, you can select Copy Meeting Invitation. But as you can see, there's a lot of information here. This is partly because this is a paid account, but even the free account has more information than your guests might need. The most essential information, however, is just this: the link to the meeting ID, and the password, if you set a password. If you want to keep things simple, you can select just this specific information, copy it into an email, and send it out. There are other ways, of course, to share the link, but this remains the easiest. And I'll close that screen. By the way, you now know just about everything you need to know to set up a meeting in the Zoom app itself. Go to the app and select Schedule. Now here's where I find the app a little confusing, because the new meeting option seems to be the one I'd need to set up a new meeting, but that actually starts a meeting instantaneously. To set up a meeting in the future, we go to the Schedule button. Schedule as in the verb, rather than the noun. Click on that, and now you have more or less the same options as you did on the website. See? You're already on your way to becoming a pro. Now let's start your meeting. We don't need the schedule meeting box anymore. There are 3 ways to start your meeting, at least 3. One of the ways is to click on a link, which you might happen to have in your email. Another way is to go to the Zoom app, go to your Meetings tab, make sure you go to Upcoming Meetings, and you'll see the meeting in question, and you can press Start there. Or you can do what I prefer to do, which is to go to the website and go to the information for that meeting and simply go to Start this meeting. By the way, I got here by coming from my profile and then going to Meetings. In the left sidebar, I choose the meeting in question and I start the meeting, and here we go. And we should be, here we are in our meeting. Now there are a couple things about the control that I want to show you that pertain to you as the host. If you go down to your lower left corner, oh, by the way, you'll see that I have somebody waiting in the waiting room. We're going to get to that very soon. First though, if you go down to the lower left-hand corner, you'll see we have our mute option. We have the stop video option. If I stop the video, you see my profile picture. If somebody hasn't set their profile picture, you'll just see their name. And also very important, if you go over here, you'll see there's a little, like a little caret symbol. You select that, you can make sure you've selected the microphone you want, the speaker you want. You can also adjust your audio settings. This is a very useful thing to be able to do. You can come here, you can test your speaker and microphone, test the sound of your speaker, and you can test the level of your microphone. You can see this microphone is registering my talk. By the way, Here there's the option to automatically adjust volume, which is usually set by default. Sometimes, however, you may find that the recording doesn't sound as good or as loud as you'd like it to be. If that's the case, unclick this and you can play with the adjustment manually. Similarly, we don't need this anymore. Similarly, you can go to the stop video, and right next to there's another caret. You can make sure you're using the video camera you want to use, and you can also adjust your video settings here. The only thing I'll advise in this section is that if you are making a recording of your meeting, you might not want to select Touch Up My Appearance, because Touch Up My Appearance simply makes your image a little blurry. And if you want a clear picture, you'll want to unselect this option. Continuing counterclockwise, there is the security button, which is very important because it allows you, for instance, to lock the meeting closed once everybody's in. You can turn on and off the waiting room. You can allow your participants to share their screen, to chat or not to chat, to rename themselves or not to name themselves, to unmute themselves or to not be able to mute themselves. And you'll see this very important option to remove a participant. If somebody becomes unruly or disrespectful, you can remove them from the meeting. Just keep in mind that this is a fairly final action. It'll be very difficult for them to come back in, and it'll be difficult for you to get them back in. Now, you'll notice that this box, which tells me that somebody's waiting to enter the meeting, they're in the waiting room, is connected to the participants section. This is a very important section for the host because it shows you who is waiting to come into the meeting, and this is where you actually let them into the meeting. So I'm going to let David into the meeting by pressing Admit. And David, by the way, David Milkey is Cozy Grammar's producer and director. He's kindly, hi David. He's kindly offered to help us out with this call. Now on this, in this participants box, notice that I have the option, right now David is muted. I have the option to ask him to unmute, and there's also a very important button here which says More. Here I can choose to chat with a participant. I can make them into the host if I want to pass that responsibility on to somebody else. I can make them the co-host. I can allow them to record the meeting or not have them record the meeting. You can rename them. For instance, if I go like this, I can just say David, for instance, just to give you an example of what that looks like. And I can stop their video if I want to stop their video. I can put them back into the waiting room if I need to, for whatever reason. And again, here's the option to remove them. Simply remember that this is a fairly final action. And by the way, if David decided to turn off his camera, what we would see instead would simply be a blank screen with his name, because I asked him to take his profile photo down for the sake of this demonstration. Otherwise you would see his profile photo. One last thing in the participants section is the option to mute all. This is helpful if you have a large number of people that might be chatting with each other and you need to start the meeting. You can mute everybody at the same time right here. Next on our tour is the chat box. This is where the chatting goes on. I find it quite distracting to try to attend to the video and the chat box at the same time. Other people are much more skilled at that than I am. All I want to point out to you is that there are these 3 dots here which will show you your options for the chat box. You can turn off the ability to chat by clicking here. You could have everybody be able to chat with you and only with you, or with everybody but publicly, or everybody publicly and privately. You can set all of those options here. However, you can also set these before you begin the meeting, which I find to be an easier way to do it. And to show you how to do that, I'm going to show you at the same time how to share your screen. So next over we have share screen. If I select that, you can see the different screens that I have open on my computer that I can share with somebody. If I want to share a video, by the way, you'll want to select optimize screen for sharing a video clip, which also selects sharing the computer sound so that your participants hear what you can hear. And I'm going to go back to my browser and show you how to set those chat settings. And here we are. I'm going to go back to just the normal Zoom website and notice that we have this little movable window. And this little movable window shows me all of the people who are on the call or in my meeting. And I can toggle between a view of all the people, in this case just 2, the last person who spoke, a smaller version of that, or just a little box saying who's talking, but I'll just keep it at the default and move it out of the way so I can go to my account. And the settings I'm talking about are go to the left side of the screen to Settings, click on Settings. That will take you to your settings, of which there are a lot, which is why I don't start here. And then you will want to choose In Meeting Basic. And here is where you can change the settings for your chat function all across your account. You can turn off the ability to chat privately if you wish. You can even turn off the ability to chat all together. You can confirm that. This isn't actually a bad idea, especially if you're just starting out, unless of course you feel comfortable with the chat box. To stop the screen share, you simply go to the top where it says Stop Share, and there you are back at your main console. A few more things. Continuing counterclockwise, here is the Record button. If you press that button, you start recording the meeting. If for whatever reason you want to stop the recording, maybe to say something you don't want to have on record or somebody's sharing something sensitive, you simply can pause. The recording will be paused and then you can resume after that by pressing on the button there. Continuing back up here, we have in the upper right hand corner the full screen toggle. That's basically what you see when you share the screen. Again, we have our little movable box, and David shows up at the center not because he's the one talking, but because he was the last one who talked, or the last one who showed his screen. Everybody else in your meeting would actually be seeing the person talking, which in this case would be me. I'll exit that, go back to this view, which I actually prefer. And one more important thing is this toggle button in the upper right hand corner where it says Gallery View. Now, if I click on it now, on Gallery View, I get a view of everybody on the call, just the 2 of us in this case. Now, what used to say Gallery View now says Speaker View. You click on that and that takes you to the view of whoever is talking. In case it's, in this case, everybody around me sees, everybody in the meeting that is, sees me, and I see David just because he was the last person to talk. I'll leave this now in Gallery View so you can get that view. Here's an important point about making recording, something that I had to learn from my own direct experience. The recording that you get at the end of your meeting will be made from whatever view is in your console. So if you want to have a view where everybody's on the screen, make sure you select that gallery view. If you only want a view of the person talking, select the speaker view, and that's what you'll get in your recording. Over here, you can see this tells us that the recording is going on. If you hover over it, you also see a pause, so you can pause the recording up there as well. You can even stop it up there if you want to. And in the far left-hand corner, you can get the information, the meeting ID, the password, and the link in case you need to refer to them. Now there's one more important feature which I haven't talked about yet, which is breakout rooms. But since this video is already getting a little long, I'm going to suggest that if you want to learn more about breakout rooms, you should check out a wonderful video by George Cow, who's not only a great guy, but a great teacher. I will put the link to that video, in fact to that specific place in the video about breakout rooms, and hopefully I can make it appear somewhere, and I'll also put the link down into the description box below so you can find it if that's something you're interested in. Now let's stop this call. I'll go to the bottom right hand corner. I click on that and I select End Meeting for All. That ends the meeting, and now the recording that I was making will be converted. And I found that the easiest thing with the recording is just to let that recording be converted. Don't close anything, don't move anything just yet, because then it will be easier afterwards to find the recording, and then you can place it in your own filing system or whatever organizational method that you prefer. So this one's almost done. So now here it is. We have our video of the meeting. We have the audio only of the meeting. If I had had people chatting in the meeting, there would also be a chat log here. Now I can go and place that wherever I need to place it. And that's basically all you really need to know to get started with hosting a Zoom meeting. I hope you'll be able not only to use these steps to host a Zoom meeting if you want to or have to, but also remember to close your computer or device when the meeting is over and refresh your mind, body, and spirit by getting up, and if you can, by going outside to remember the great and wide world, even if we can only glimpse it in a patch of sky. Even a patch of sky can speak to our hearts. And if you live in a place where you can see trees and birds, spend some time with the trees and birds and let them teach you about staying rooted and taking flight and filling the air with your song. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, or join me for a session of Ask Cozy Grammar. In the meantime, may you be happy, healthy, and cozy at home, connecting with others both near and far as we keep each other company through these unusual times.